Why is there controversy over Thanksgiving in the United States? Well, let's talk about it and learn and practice English at the same time. Welcome to English Coach 3 T's. I'm Tanya, and this is a topic that is a little difficult to talk about, but I want to tell you some of the facts and also share with you my opinion and my thoughts on the subject. I think that one of the reasons Thanksgiving is so controversial is because of the historical context. When I was a child, and I know this is true of a lot of Americans, I was taught that the pilgrims came from Europe to settle here in the United States and had a good relationship with what is now called the Native Americans. When I was a child, we said the Indians, and since that time, it's now considered politically incorrect to call this group of people Indians. When we say something is politically incorrect, basically we mean it's no longer accepted as an appropriate way to say something, and it's probably frowned upon. Frowned upon is another interesting phrase. So, frowned upon means, again, it's not considered a good thing, it's not considered appropriate. And you can think of it because smiling is the opposite of frowning. And when something is frowned upon, it's a no go. These are not the only kinds of things that are frowned upon. You could also say that wearing a certain type of clothing is frowned upon in a certain place, or doing a certain thing is frowned upon at a certain time. There's many times you can use this phrase. Basically, as a child, I was taught that Thanksgiving is the way that we give thanks for the help that we received from the Native Americans. My understanding was that the natives taught the new settlers or pilgrims how to grow corn and other things that they didn't know how to grow before, but that were things that grew more easily and naturally here. This helped the pilgrims to survive in the New World, and for that reason, they wanted to give thanks. A lot of people say this story simply is not true, and that we shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving in this way because a lot of Native Americans were taken advantage of. In fact, they were abused in many ways. So, what's my opinion on this? I definitely never want to celebrate abuse or anyone being treated inappropriately or taken advantage of. And I do think that the tradition of giving thanks is a very positive thing. Knowing people the way I know people, I'm sure there were people who were very, very inappropriate and maybe downright heinous, meaning they did things that were so horrible, you can't even really describe how horrible it is. Yet, I also know that at the same time, there were probably people who did have positive relationships with the Native Americans. Because I don't know the facts, I wasn't there. I choose to celebrate Thanksgiving as a way of being thankful for everyone, the people who came from Europe and made it possible for me to have a home here, the Native Americans who did help some of the settlers, and the Native Americans who still live here and share this part of the world with me. A lot of people would and will say that I'm being a Pollyanna. This is not new for me. I've been called a Pollyanna my whole life. And when we call someone a Pollyanna, first of all, when we call somebody anything, it's really not appropriate. But second of all, when we call somebody a Pollyanna, we're saying that they're glossing over it, meaning they're not really looking at reality and they're just like putting sugar on it. That might be your opinion of me, and that's okay if that's your opinion. I feel like I have done a lot of soul searching. In other words, I have given a lot of time to finding out as much as I can about reality and what is fact. And I've decided and made decisions for myself and how I want to celebrate this time. For me, Thanksgiving became one of my favorite holidays many years ago because the focus for me and my family was on being grateful. And especially when I had my own children, the focus of the celebration was to be thankful and to give thanks. This is not the only reason that Thanksgiving is controversial here in the United States. Just like learning a language, there are always lots of people who have lots of different opinions on how things should be. This is why I have made a free class for women who want to learn English and they don't know how, and they're starting to feel confused and frustrated. I want to help you feel happy with your English and confident when you speak. If you'd like to register for this free class, click on the link in the description below, or you could also go to the link that you see on your screen. As far as some of the other controversy around Thanksgiving, there is talk about cultural appropriation. In other words, when somebody of one culture takes something from somebody of another culture, and especially when that other culture is oppressed or pushed down and not treated well by the original culture. This is something that I do not support and do not celebrate. Also, the idea of consumerism that surrounds Thanksgiving. You may have heard that Black Friday in the United States is the day after Thanksgiving. This is so ingrained in our way of thinking, meaning this is so much a part of my thinking that when I traveled to Europe a few years ago, I was there when it would have been Thanksgiving, but of course there was no Thanksgiving. And then that Friday was Black Friday. I was like, you can't have Black Friday without Thanksgiving. It was so strange for me. If you'd like to see more and hear about that story, check out this video. Since that time, I've really given some thought to it because I have never, ever been a proponent of Black Friday. Now, I know a lot of people love Black Friday. People in my family love Black Friday, and even my children enjoy Black Friday. But for me, when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I had to work on Black Friday a lot because I was a waitress for many, many years. And this was something that was very sad for me because, like I said, Thanksgiving was one of my favorite holidays, and I really would have enjoyed some time off with my family. So I vowed, or you could say I promised, not to participate in Black Friday. Having said that, really now at this point in my life, it is just something that really represents all of the consumerism or this drive, this need to buy more and more things, which is also something I don't support. Let me say right here that if your opinion is different than mine, I can respect your opinion. I just think it's a really good idea for all of us to give thought to what we are doing and what we are celebrating, no matter how we decide to do it in the end. I have had my fair share of pain when it comes to Thanksgiving, stemming from or coming from a time in my life when my family was so dysfunctional I didn't have people to celebrate Thanksgiving with. If you'd like to learn more about my experience with that, check out this story. Overall, Thanksgiving has been a very positive part of my life, and I have lots of really fond memories, or I could say I have lots of very good memories about this holiday. And next week, I have a funny story to share with you about Thanksgiving. Of course, you don't want to wait a whole week to keep practicing your English. So next, I suggest you watch this video to help you remember some of the phrases and vocabulary you learned here today.